All right, I will bring this August 2nd Board of Education meeting to order. Shirley, roll call, please.
Kate Thomas.
Here.
Troy Carr.
Here.
Deb Baker.
Here.
Jim Hansen. Clay Colomb.
Here.
Jamie Clapham.
Here.
And Michael Berklin.
Here.
Please join us in the invocation from Pastor Craig Moore from First Assembly of God.
Your blessing upon our administrators who lead our teachers and make such crucial decisions. Lord, give them health and strength. Give them wisdom, guidance, creativity, and courage to always do the right things as they do their work. Lord, bless the principals and the assistants and all the teachers and support staff. Give them health and strength. Let them have a positive influence in the lives of the students. Give them all wisdom, courage, creativity, love, and grace as they prepare to come back to school for the 22-23 school year. Lord, bless the school board members. Give them health and strength. Give them wisdom as they make difficult decisions. Help them to be led by your Spirit to know what is best for our schools. Lord, give them strength, courage, creativity, perseverance, grace, and a spirit of cooperation to accomplish the greatest possible outcomes. Lord, once again, we desire and declare and proclaim Rapid City schools to be the best schools in South Dakota, and South Dakota schools to be the best in the nation. Lord, would you put that in place, and let it be so. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I need a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Hansen and Baker. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, moving on to persons wishing to address the board. No changes are needed. First up is Florence Thompson.
There we go. Did it work? It worked, see? Yeah, reclaim my time. There we go. My name is Florence Thompson. I'm president of South Dakota Parents Involved in Education. I'm also a retired school psychologist with over 40 years experience in the schools as a psychologist. I'd like to talk about global education. I know we talk a lot about local control, but how much local control do we really have? I'm going to quote from an article here. How Education International is pushing teachers' unions into the fourth industrial revolution. Why have teachers' unions been pushing ed tech that is driving schools into the 4th industrial revolution? Look no further than the Education International, a global federation tied to UNESCO and the World Economic Forum that dominates most teachers' unions in the U.S. and beyond. For nearly 100 years, the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association, NEA, the two largest teachers' unions in the United States, have cozied up to corporate foundations such as the Rockefeller Philanthropies and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, along with multinational technology companies, including IBM and Microsoft. After almost a century of cutting side deals with robber barons and tech barons alike, the AFT and the NEA are now parroting the Gates Foundation's Reimagining Education campaign, which is being buoyed up by the World Economic Forum, WEF, and the United Nations educational, scientific, and cultural organization, UNESCO. Altogether, the AFT, the NEA, and the WEF and UNESCO are all reimagining a new post-human education system as they simultaneously push for ed tech overhauls. As documented in my investigative series by this author, Technocracy, these overhauls seek to privatize public schools through partnerships with big tech corporations that facilitate online distance learning to accommodate indefinite classroom health restrictions in a post-COVID world. In fact, the AFT and the NEA are tethered to the WEF and UNESCO through an entity known as Education International, EI. EI is a global union federation that combines 383 member organizations, including the AFT, the NEA, and collaborates with the WEF and UNESCO. As the intermediary between America's teachers' unions and the World Economic Forum and UNESCO, Education International has been galvanizing the AFT and the NEA into conformity with these reimagined EdTech agendas of these global governance institutions. To put it bluntly, EI puppeteers the AFT and the NEA using marionette strings that are tied to the World Economic Forum and UNESCO. In turn, the FT and the NEA, along with the other 381 member organizations belonging to EI, are being spurred to reimagine schools through corporate ed tech innovations geared toward advancing the fourth industrial revolution. That is being accelerated by the WEF, the United Nations, through the policy agendas collectively known as the Great Reset. By consolidating nearly all the world's teachers' unions under a single GUF, or union, EI has been corralling educators across the planet into a uniform global workforce that marches in lockstep with the corporate ed-tech initiatives of internationalist oligarchs in the World Economic Forum and UNESCO. Rather than representing the grassroots concerns of local teachers at the international bargaining tables of the World Economic Forum and UNESCO, Education International has been co-opting unionized educators, including AFT and NEA members, by signing them on to reimagine and reset campaigns. So, this will all lead to a globalization, the post-human social credit economy, and that will underpin the fourth industrial revolution. Our RCEA is a member of NEA, or SDEA, which is a member of NEA, which is a member of IA, International Education. So.
Thank you. Next speaker, David Neeham.
Hi, I'm Dave. Thanks for this opportunity to address the school board and the community. When I spoke before this board in June, I advocated for a parent-student Bill of Rights and included gender identity as an area where indoctrination has occurred. Another speaker disagreed that indoctrination was taking place and seemed to question my compassion for transgender students. The problem I have with how gender identity issues are being addressed in some of the schools comes from a place of compassion for children that research shows are being permanently damaged by well-meaning individuals that embrace the most radical approaches to this issue, despite research that seems to be saying proceed with caution. In 2018, Brown University released a study, Sudden Onset Gender Dysphoria, that raised concerns about a new phenomenon, clusters of teen and preteen girls who shared social media contacts coming out as transgender. The university pulled the study because of pressure from trans activists. In 2020, the book Irreversible Damage, researched and written by Abigail Schreier, a writer for the Wall Street Journal, also addressed sudden onset gender dysphoria. Trans activists pressured businesses to stop selling the book. In addition, detransitioners that regret their transitions are intimidated into silence and ignored by the media. Clearly, we are dealing with censorship and propaganda in this area, which is tantamount to indoctrination. Schreier's research shows that until a few years ago, gender dysphoria, or severe discomfort in one's biological sex, was extremely rare, and it was typically found in less than 1.01% of the population, emerged in early childhood, and was found in males almost exclusively. In the last decade, that has changed dramatically. The Western world has seen a sudden surge of adolescents claiming to have transgender dysphoria. Whole groups of female friends are coming out as transgender. These are girls who never experienced any discomfort in their biological sex until they heard a coming out story from a speaker at a school assembly or discovered the internet community of trans influencers. One girl reported having 4 transgender activists speak at her school in a year. Parents are awakening to find their daughters captivated by transgender YouTube stars and gender-affirming educators and therapists who push life-changing interventions on young girls. Schreier says that America has become fertile ground for this mass enthusiasm because parents are undermined, experts are over-relied upon, dissenters in science and medicine are intimidated, free speech is under attack, government health care laws harbor hidden consequences, and an intersectional era has arisen in which the desire to escape the dominant identity encourages individuals to take cover in victim groups. Schreier says that coming out as transgender immediately boosts these girls' social status. You know, I highly recommend Schreier's book to every parent, student, and teacher. You know, when it comes to gender dysphoria, it's my opinion that compassion requires a more prudent approach than caving to societal pressures to conform. And I've heard people across the LGBTQ spectrum expressing the same concerns. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Tanji Weaver.
Good evening, Board. I guess everybody's reading something tonight. Before I forget, I want to thank you for going back to your original website, your agenda. I appreciate that very much. Okay, last week I attended an in-depth conference on the corporate marijuana industry and the products that are marketed to the public as medicine. What I learned was the realities that families, schools, cities, counties, and states must face after marijuana laws are passed. The professionals on the multiple panels cited data gathered from the 46 states where marijuana has been legalized either fully or to some degree for several years. We heard from scientific researchers who discussed the addictive properties of the high-potency THC in the marketed products and how it affects the brain and brain development in young people. They tracked and analyzed data to show the human and societal cost, exposing the medical marijuana myth. Some speakers were psychiatrists and counselors who deal with the alarming rise in psychosis, schizophrenia, depression, suicidal ideation, violent and antisocial behavior in users of these potent products, and emphasized how the marketing makes them especially appealing to young people. There were several emergency room doctors and nurses there who encounter cannabis-related issues daily. Cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, or CHS, is something I'd never heard of before, but it's commonly known as scromiting. It's a combination of screaming due to terrible abdominal pain and uncontrollable vomiting, and this happens from prolonged marijuana use. One doctor was a pain management physician who disproved the claim that cannabis is a very effective pain reliever and showed that these concentrated, high-potency THC products can be especially dangerous for the elderly who metabolize more slowly and who likely take drugs that interact with the THC to address other conditions. Representatives of law enforcement agencies were there, some of whom had spent years under deep cover within the drug cartels. They explained how making marijuana legal actually increases illegal activity. Many public officials testified that the promised benefits of legalizing marijuana don't happen. Schools have not realized a revenue bonanza. They get a lot more marijuana, though. The black market has blossomed under legalized marijuana instead of contracted. and the proliferation of dispensaries has created far more 12 to 20-year-old marijuana users. There were legal experts there also who explained the intricacies of state laws, administrative law, and federal laws, and the ways that the cannabis industry can now become targets for litigation by victims of their products. Insurance industry representatives showed the uptick in traffic accidents and fatalities due to drivers drugged with THC in the 19 states where cannabis is fully legal. This results in higher auto insurance premiums across the board and adds to the daily expenses of the average person. Not everyone who dies from THC use is a user. Some are the victims of the users who drive. Drug driving is not punished as often as drunk driving. And if I had more time, I'd get into some of the light-loaded penalties in the law that's on our November ballot. A South Dakota addiction and recovery counselor stated that his decades of work will be nullified by what's coming our way with medical and unlimited use of marijuana, noting that South Dakota's suicide rate is already twice the national average. Of course, we also heard the heartbreaking stories of parents whose children were ensnared by this supposedly innocent drug and died by suicide, traffic fatality, or overdose. I'm asking this board to help raise the awareness of students and parents before our state laws change. This isn't the road ditch ganja that people of my generation had. It's a misnomer to call marijuana medicine without including the quotation marks.
That's time, Tonti.
I've got one more sentence.
Okay.
This is a profit-driven industry with clever marketing, and children are in the bullseye. Please consider scheduling school assemblies and special parent nights on this important topic. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have no more speakers, so on to sharing of the success, but we don't have any items for tonight. I have not received any conflict of interest waivers. And so we are on to the approval of the consent agenda. Would anybody like anything pulled? We do need to pull J. Without any other items being pulled, do I have a motion to approve of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Hanson and Baker. All right, items A through Y, except for J. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right. With J, I need a motion and a second to approve. Bishop Carr, and Baker. And we will have a discussion. I will probably have you come up, Dr. Tilburg, to the podium for some questions. As it reads right now, last week, 2 weeks ago, we had it amended to add some creams. Now, they had been taken off, but they'll be taken off tonight, actually, as we approve of what is written right here. But I believe there is something else that you wanted to address, and I'll read it for the public. Buildings will have a limited stock of over-the-counter medication on hand to administer to students who have signed consent for medical administration form. The medications on hand will be ibuprofen, anacetamine, antacids, antihistamines, and cough drops. All other over-the-counter medications will need to be supplied by the parent or guardians. So the removal of the creams that we had amended will be taken off with the approval of this. Can you explain why we need to do that? And then the antihistamines will have to make a motion to take that off.
Sure. So when we, in the nurse's office, when we have a kiddo come in that would require an antibiotic cream, like say Neosporin, we actually generally don't do that. Can you not hear me?
Get closer
Okay.
to the mic,
Sure.
please.
We don't do that, just simply, there's a lot of evidence that has come out that antibiotic creams are not always needed, and if they are needed, it's something that we use not very often, I guess you would say, because it usually involves working closely with a parent. So there's studies out there that say that Aquaphor or Vaseline are just as good after cleaning a wound, like a knee or a scraped knee from a playground fall. It's just as beneficial as using a Neosporin. There's actually lots of documented cases of allergies to Neosporin. There's also studies out there that talk about antibiotic stewardship and would sway someone away from using antibiotic cream. When we open up the idea of requiring consent for every cream out there, it just becomes way too burdensome. And when we use antibiotic creams or any type of cream, we almost always speak closely with that parent. I can say that I haven't called a parent every time I've put a Band-Aid on, but I certainly do call every parent if I see something that I'm worried would become infected. Antibiotic cream, especially you'd use for infections, we rarely ever use any type of Benadryl cream or antihistamine cream or hydrocortisone cream, just because if a kid comes to our office with a rash that is new, we're going to be calling those parents asking when we think the rash could have started and what it might be from, just because many rashes are viral, and if a kiddo has a viral rash at school, they potentially could be sick or contagious.
Okay, and then the antihistamines?
The antihistamines is actually in the standing orders that we get from Dr. Lehman. He's our community health physician that gives us our standing orders. So if a kiddo comes into the nurse's office and I believe, or any of our nurses believe that they are having a severe allergic reaction that might require Benadryl as the first line, and then if Benadryl is not working and they are still experiencing severe allergic reaction, it may require epinephrine or an EpiPen. We are just going to give that to tend to the child to keep their airway open and to save their life, rather than worry about trying to get a hold of mom and dad to try to get consent from that. That is a rare instance. In my 2 years working with the district, this has never happened, where we've had to do something without a parent's consent in that type of situation. But that is why we don't really need the antihistamine under the over-the-counter policy.
I had a question about that too. Is there something about if you do end up administering antihistamines, it could be masking a different problem and would need to be watched? Okay.
Yep, and that's another reason why we would really steer clear from ever putting anything on a rash, just because we might be, putting something at ease for the moment, but really it needs to be taken care of. So.
Okay. Do any board members have any questions? I know that it is not Amy. Mr. Birkeland.
Sorry, still getting used to the tech here. I just had a question about how, and maybe it says in here and I missed it, how are the consent for medication administration forms being dispersed?
Sure, that's a great question. So we have a couple different ways to achieve that. In Skyward, you can go under Family Access and you can provide consent via a Skyward Access form or a Family Access form, or you can sign it a physical paper form, and then that paper form is filed or scanned in and filed in file bound under the student's record.
So will that be like with other forms then? I'm not totally familiar with how Skyward works, but it'll just be
so
like with the athletic forms and all those things, same place?
Exactly, yep.
Cool,
Yep.
thank you.
Any other questions? So as it's written here, I don't see the creams on here anymore. So what you are asking for is I'll need a motion to strike antihistamines.
So moved.
Bishop, Carr, and Baker. All right. All those in favor of striking antihistamines on this policy? We can have a discussion if you want. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right. And now we need to approve of this policy. We have a motion and a second already. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Thank you. Thank you,
You're
Dr. Clark.
welcome.
All right, we do not have any first readings of policy, and we do have a couple of reports from the Chief Executive Office. First with John Carroll on the OLO Talking Circle Pacing Guide.
Hi, I'll be speaking. A few months ago, Director Carol and myself were approached by Oaye Luta Okolakichie, moving forward in a sacred way regarding an opportunity to offer mentoring through talking circles to Rapid City area schools, middle school students. When introduced to middle school principals, all were in favor of the proposed project and felt it would support the needs of Native students. OLO is a Lakota-based nonprofit organization that promotes collaborations to identify effective strategies to support youth and strengthen school and community relationships by providing opportunities for youth, adults, families, and communities. Here to present their partnership proposal are Tui Annie Lloyd and Lexi Jean Tayan.
Welcome.
Thank you, everybody. We have a presentation for you, so as soon as I see it on the screen, I will get it up there. There we go. So good evening, everybody. My name is Annie Bashan, and this is Jean Tayan. He's the executive director and founder of Oaye Luta Okolakichie that's been in existence since 2012, but I think the prayers and the dreams of it have been much longer. These are some of our mentors. I know some of you know Jeremiah Moreno, who's already teaching Lakota in the schools. You have nods and smiles. That's good. And Cedric Goodhouse and his wife, Take. They are also members of our mentor team, so I thought that would just be good to have them up here tonight. So there we go. So who are we? Oaye Luta Okolakichie, we're a Lakota-based nonprofit 501c3 in this community. As I said, we've been around since 2012. Our primary is providing cultural identity development for the healing of that unresolved trauma and grief that exists within people that we witness in the substance use and abuse and alcohol use in our relatives out in the community. And this revitalization of cultural identity development in youth and adults and our families in the community, we know it brings hope. And it brings an opportunity for healing and the restoration of the ability to be sustainable, contributing members to the community. The implementation is a simple curriculum. It's culturally grounded and inclusive for all students, not just Native students. And I want to repeat that. It's really important that people know this is for everybody to enjoy and to participate in with the consent of their guardians and or parents. It's intended to assist the school system in the development of the programming and understanding in a way that's consistent with Oaye Luta's mission of serving our community and our children with instilling hope, promoting wellness, prevention, and healing. So moving forward in a sacred way, we are here for our youth. We exist for our youth, for our future generations. And we met with the school principals, we met with John Carroll and Angel Lee and the staff to say, you know, how can we help? We know that there's this alarming 75% attrition rate among our American Indian high school students, and there's this high rate of teen suicide that was already discussed here tonight, and it's continuing to grow. And we know that there is a need for preventative ways to these challenges in our community. We offer the school and personnel support, not just in these talking circles that we're proposing, but to meet with and support as often as we can, to be another additional partner in the school, build community and relationships. We know we need additional strategies and practices in our schools for our American Indian children, but for all of our students. Our students struggle. All interested students can come and share in the learning opportunities. Support is developed within the school administration and teachers with each other and around the students. And overall, the climate of the school has so many positive outcomes from this. So the implementation of the talking circles with the recovery community, with Rapid City Community Area Schools District, it's in alignment with the South Dakota state standards. We made sure that what we're doing is in alignment with that in the health and education and the Ocheti-Shakoween essential understandings. Those outcomes are as identified: promote self-image and self-efficacy, strengthening cultural resilience, promote healing, strengthen family, community, school relationships, and promote Indigenous academic achievement. We can incorporate the tribal knowledge, language, and approaches through dialogue support and education with a holistic approach. We know our children need to establish healthy and productive relationships with positive adult mentors. And we know that there's a place-based identity with knowledge and practices available. That's what we provide. So we want the students to get ready to learn. Health and wellness is imperative for all of our students in their learning journeys. Let us all contribute to our students' journey in learning and growing. So we recognize through a culturally grounded added support that education comes from both sides, meaning that representation of who we are is present in their school. For a little one right here, right? And we know that these strategies have worked for thousands of years and seem good enough to merge with modern strategies for modern problems. And being honest with where we are within ourselves, with our cultural identity, and understand the opportunities we have to rebuild our resources for our youth. And obviously, it's an individual process with added support and peer mentoring and in the peer mentored setting. So talking circles, so this comes from some sustained research. We know that in its simplest form, talking circles, it's done in a complete circle. Only the person who's holding the stick shares. It's confidential. We encourage people that what is said there to stay there. It is done in a safe way, in a supportive way. The person talks until they are finished, and all are encouraged to be respectful of one another and of the time. So we've put together this pacing guide, and within this pacing guide, all of you have received a little handout. And it represents the Lakota way that we'll be talking about, and it has the Lakota language in there, along with the English translation of it, right? So those talking circles will cover the compassion, humility. These will all be lessons: wisdom, generosity, the bravery, respect, honor, and fortitude. So these are understandings that all of us, no matter what our cultural heritage, no matter what we do or don't know, that this is collective amongst all of us, and it brings about a better understanding of who we are within inside of ourselves and developing that individual identity. So we've agreed to use the EI time, and within that time, you know, that's like it's a study time that there is it won't impede upon the existing curriculum or the teachers, and it supports the teaching environment in and of itself. We've agreed to meet with the principals as often as they would like, checking in with them to see what is working and what needs to be adjusted. OLO provides the collaboration, the partnership. There's no additional hires needed. There's no funds to be determined by facilitators to offer special opportunities, right? Any questions? Anything that you want to say before we go?
Okay. Thank you for letting us present this. The good part about this is once we get the student involved and with the talking circle and to getting them going, we involve the whole family, the guardians, the grandmas and grandpas, uncles, and all those that are needing resources, and that we have the resources to provide for them to live in a healthier way also. So it's well researched, you know, and I visited such programs in the Southwest, the Northwest, the West Coast, who have been in existence for 30, 35 years, and its success rate is awesome. You know, in emergency room visits, the crisis center, the homeless, the treatment programs, you know, it's time to do something about this 75% dropout rate, you know, and I think we can be effective in doing this. Thank you.
Bishop Carr.
I had two questions, and I think they might have been answered, but just for clarity. So is there feedback from of the student back to the parents and to the school if a child brings up a subject, why I'm having a hard time in math? And so is that then communicated to parents and teachers so that can be resolved, or do they just talk about I'm having a problem in math?
No, so if there's a conversation that there is this particular challenge that's happening, we'll sit down with the principals and be able to give that feedback to them, right? And of course, if somebody, I'll give you an example that has happened in past talking circles, maybe somebody discloses that they have some type of thought of self-harm, obviously that would be followed up right away.
Okay, that was my second question about, are you mandatory reporters?
We are.
Here, okay.
We are mandatory reporters. Everybody has been fingerprinted and cleared by the sheriff's office, and they're all trained in HIPAA, and they'll be trained in FERPA. If this goes forward, I'll train them in FERPA and anything else that you want to, but yes.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Bishop Carr, can I add to that, please? The study hall, which we call EI in our middle schools, is the place and time that this work will be done if approved. Because these are volunteers that are coming into our schools to offer this service, the certified staff member will be in the room. So the student's teacher of record will be there for each of these sessions. And so that they already have that connection with the family, whereas the volunteers wouldn't necessarily have access to phone numbers, et cetera. So just to also add that in.
Ms. Clapham.
First of all, I just want to say a big thank you. Anytime any organization in our community wants to support our students at our school, we are hugely appreciative, and I say that as a board member and as a parent. So first of all, thank you. My question was, so I heard, in the Southwest and the West Coast, would this be kind of a new introduction in South Dakota? Are there other schools that are doing it in South Dakota right now, or other districts?
I'm not sure if they're doing it or not, because we're a program that's first here in South Dakota and in the upper Midwest that really focuses on cultural identity development and really addressing the most obvious problem of alcohol and drug use brought on by I could go on and on, the historical trauma that's genetically passed to us, which was talked about earlier. So we're addressing the root of that. And I don't know if any other schools do that or not, but that's the focus of our program. And it would be nice, like what was mentioned, to meet like us, talk and circle amongst the staff, the principals, once a month to really figure out, because we're doing this in the community with the judges, the DSS, the directors of the programs, to really provide that effective help for those that are coming to us for help.
I do know that there are talking circles that have been held regularly down at the Pine Ridge Girls School. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about other schools.
We're having a girls' camp as we speak, yesterday to Friday, but they're at Bob Marshall Campground near Custer. So it's really coming of age ceremonies and such to really provide identity development too. So it's really good.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Angel Lee.
Hi, I just wanted to add that this is being done in Montana, that it is where part of the framework had come from, but also on reservation schools. Also, our social workers implement talking circles. I think other frameworks are called creating sacred spaces, or they have talking or societies, which is a traditional group method of doing talking circles. So it is implemented in different ways. It's just, this is called Oaye Luta Kolakichie. So it's just a different name for something that's been effective in working with students.
In the SAMHSA guideline, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services industry, from the that's been one of their recommended models of evidence-based interaction for a very, very long time, for decades.
The contract we got is from the Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board, and it's a SAMHSA federal funded grant that we're we contracted from, and it's to demonstrate that a cultural approach to addiction recovery and mental health is effective. So this is what we're doing.
Any other questions from board members? Thank you. I really appreciate this. This sounds very promising.
Thank you. Wopila.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to our Chief Executive Officer report. Ms. Swigert.
Thank you, Madam President. It's August, which means that the start of school is just around the corner, and we are in a very busy season. In the last 2 weeks, I have attended the South Dakota State Superintendent's Conference, which invited superintendents from all 151 school districts in the state to come together and listen and learn and network. And I was very fortunate to meet a lot of other superintendents and have a lot reach out to me as well. On July 19th and 20th, we offered the test out course equivalency exams at Rapid City High School. Families of high school students could sign up for those tests the month of June and into the beginning of July. And those tests were offered so that if students passed them at a rate of 85% or higher, they could earn the college or the high school credit and not take the class. And we didn't have a huge turnout this year, but we continue to offer that for all students who want to test out of some core classes moving forward. At the next meeting, I would like to come with a staffing report with more detail, but we are still struggling with some staffing issues. As of Friday, we had 62.5 paraprofessional positions posted, 11 special education positions, 7 high school positions, 9 middle school positions, 17.5 elementary positions, and 4 counseling positions open, which has everybody, principals and downtown leadership, struggling to come up with ways that we can put teachers in front of students on day one. So please trust that we are working very hard on that. I've also been attending various community agency meetings. I have met with local service providers from a variety of community agencies. I've met with court services, and I did meet with RCEA in the last 2 weeks. I joined a group that is doing some work, the Immersion About Place, the Minnelusahan, and Bishop Carr and I were invited to participate in that, and we had our first meeting last Thursday. I met with the School Safety Center and communicated with all principals to schedule a school safety audit with Brett Garland from the South Dakota School Safety Center, and principals have been informing me that those are scheduled for August and September. This week, we are incredibly busy. On Monday, Mike Talley brought all of the administrators, principals, assistant principals, district leaders, and deans together at the monument to do some work on the instructional framework guide, some training. I will make sure that you all get a copy of this, but this is some work that was done pre-COVID, and lots of our administrators participated in that work, and we are moving forward with it. It's a central focus of Mr. Talley's work with buildings this year. On Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week, schools are coming together with instructors, teachers from their buildings to do some data retreats. Today was the high school and middle school data retreat. Tomorrow is the non-Title Elementary School data retreat, and Thursday is the Title Elementary School data retreat. That is also very hard work that helps get us started and our focus on the year. Friday, Mr. Talley is gathering all of the principals, assistant principals, and deans and leadership together again at Central High School to do some work. One thing I'm greatly disappointed in is I will be in Sioux Falls and not there, but they are going to work with Tim McGowan, who is a retired Rapid City Area Schools employee who has gone on to do great things nationally with some work, and he is going to come in. I would love the opportunity to have him present at a future board retreat and work with us. This Thursday and Friday, as I said, I'll be going to Sioux Falls to attend the Associated School Board of South Dakota Convention. This is a chance for me to learn some more about policy. I'm really focusing on the legal aspect, the information I can learn about how we can better deal with concerns and complaints, grievances within the district. Last Saturday, I would like to again thank everybody who attended the board retreat. I think we had very courageous conversation and did some really great and hard work, and I look forward to our next retreat in October. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any questions for her? Okay, we are under other. Any board members with other? Go ahead. Is that you, Ms. Clapham? It says Clay still up here.
I just kind of, I don't want to say like on the record, but I know there's been a little bit of frustration with the delay with posting the video and the minutes, and just for the public to know that without our community relations person, that we have some barriers there, but that for people to know they are heard, and we know that that is frustrating, and we are not ignoring that need. So just that, so publicly, I know that I've gotten some emails and conversations about that. So just to acknowledge that we do hear you, and we'll work on creative ways to address that in the meantime.
Bishop Carr.
Well, I couldn't not say anything, but since Mrs. Swigart talked about the retreat, one of the things that I personally gained from the retreat and learned at the retreat is a personal mission statement that I will use from now until my tenure, and that is that I commit to ensure the effective communication, and it was originally K through 12, but I was informed that we also service newborn to 21, and so I endeavor to make sure that we educate everybody under our care.
Ms. Swaggart. The delay on those.
I wanted to address the community relations manager position. We are holding interviews tomorrow afternoon, so fingers crossed we will find the perfect candidate to fill that position for us and help us do a better job with that.
Any other? I want to ask Kumar, would you please explain what we saved in the the MOU that we had on today, or addendum to South Middle School?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The change order that you approved earlier today takes the contract amount for South Middle School from $61,430,000 to $60,429,513.90, which is a little over $1 million. And this is from the value engineering work that we did after we hired the contractor. Between the contractor, the design team, and ourselves, we found those different line items without sacrificing the scope of the project and or the goal of the project. We were able to achieve that, and wanted you and the community to be aware that $1 million have been saved on that project. And we certainly haven't came out of the ground yet. We're still working with soft soils and Mother Nature at this point, and we have only increased or changed the contract amount for about $6,500 in the net increase so far, but which is still, $1,486,000 below where we started this project.
That's good to hear, and for the public to hear too. Thank you. All right. We will now be going into executive session for SDCL 1-25-2.1, and there will be no further action taken afterwards. I thank everybody for coming.
So moved.
Please, thank you. Hanson and Berklin. All in favor? All those opposed?